The ripple effects of former President Donald Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs are beginning to have a substantial and far-reaching impact on the North American automotive industry. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Mazda, one of the most prominent Japanese automakers with significant operations in the US, recently confirmed that it will temporarily halt production of its CX-50 vehicles destined for the Canadian market. The decision underscores the complex interdependencies that exist between international trade policies, manufacturing operations, and consumer access, illustrating how swiftly government decisions can influence the global automotive supply chain. Mazda announced that beginning May 12, its Huntsville, Alabama plant, the company's sole North American assembly facility responsible for producing the CX-50 for the region, will pause production for vehicles intended for export to Canada. While Mazda has not specified the length of this suspension, the announcement highlights the tangible consequences that trade policies can have on vehicle availability and market stability. Sandra Lemaitre, a spokesperson for Mazda Canada, emphasized that Canadian dealerships will continue to sell existing stock to consumers, but the available supply is limited. Prospective buyers are therefore encouraged to act promptly to secure a CX-50, as current inventories may be the only option in the near term. Mazda clarified that the production halt affects only Canadian-bound vehicles and will not interfere with output for the U.S. market. The Huntsville plant, operated as a joint venture with Toyota under Mazda Toyota Manufacturing, MTM, remains fully operational, continuing to meet domestic demand. This approach allows Mazda to maximize production capacity at MTM while strategically adjusting exports to align with evolving trade conditions. In an official statement, the company emphasized the importance of MTM to its North American strategy. MTM will continue to build the Mazda CX-50 for the North American market without any changes to overall production volume. As Mazda's sole vehicle assembly facility in the United States, we intend to utilize MTM to its fullest capacity to support the growth of our business. We will continue to monitor the situation, including government negotiations, market trends, and policy developments, and will consider flexible and appropriate responses accordingly. The Huntsville plant serves as the cornerstone of Mazda's North American operations. Beyond supplying the U.S. market, it previously produced vehicles for export to Canada and other international regions. The temporary suspension of Canadian shipments underscores the vulnerability of global supply chains to policy disruptions, even when domestic operations remain stable. For Mazda, this pause represents a delicate balancing act, maintaining operational efficiency at MTM, safeguarding profitability, and ensuring that consumers in Canada and elsewhere continue to have access to popular models like the CX-50. The potential ramifications of ongoing tariffs are significant. Mazda has indicated that, should U.S. tariff policies persist, it may have to increase the retail price of the CX-50 in Canada to offset additional costs. In a more severe scenario, the company could consider withdrawing the model entirely from the Canadian market. For Canadian consumers, the situation adds an element of urgency. Dealership inventories now represent the only readily available source for the CX-50, meaning that buyers may need to act quickly to secure a vehicle. Delays could result in longer waiting periods, higher costs, or even the possibility of missing out on the model entirely. The situation highlights how interconnected international manufacturing and trade really are. Tariffs implemented by one country can trigger chain reactions that affect exports, pricing, and availability in neighboring regions. In the case of the CX-50, decisions made in Washington directly influence Canadian dealerships and consumers, reflecting the broader consequences of trade policies for multinational companies. Moreover, Mazda's response demonstrates the necessity of strategic flexibility for automakers navigating global markets. By monitoring government negotiations and market developments, the company aims to minimize disruption while protecting both its operational capacity and its brand reputation. Industry analysts suggest that Mazda's announcement is emblematic of a growing concern among automakers regarding trade instability. While U.S. production lines continue to operate at full capacity, the temporary halt for Canadian-bound vehicles illustrates the real-world consequences of tariffs beyond abstract economic policy debates. Other automakers are likely evaluating similar measures, weighing the pros and cons of adjusting production, raising prices, or temporarily suspending exports to mitigate the financial effects of cross-border tariffs. The situation also offers insight into how trade policies influence consumer behavior. Canadian buyers of the CX50 may now face higher prices or limited availability, potentially affecting financing options, trade-in values, and even long-term purchasing decisions. Dealers are also adjusting their inventory strategies, balancing existing stock against uncertain future supply while attempting to maintain customer satisfaction and loyalty. The pause in production has created a ripple effect throughout the market, illustrating how a single policy decision can cascade across the entire supply chain, from manufacturer to dealership to buyer. From a broader economic perspective, tariffs are intended to protect domestic industries, yet they often create unintended consequences. For Mazda, these consequences include disrupted export schedules, potential revenue losses, and the risk of alienating consumers in neighboring markets. The challenge lies in maintaining efficiency at MTM while navigating the economic pressures imposed by tariffs and the corresponding Canadian countermeasures. The CX50 example vividly illustrates how complex and interdependent modern manufacturing networks are and how geopolitical policy decisions can have immediate real-world consequences. Beyond Mazda, the issue reflects broader industry trends. Automakers across North America have had to grapple with changing trade agreements, supply chain bottlenecks, and tariff-induced cost pressures in recent years. Decisions made at the federal level, particularly those concerning import and export tariffs, have direct and measurable effects on production schedules, pricing, and consumer access. The CX50 pause serves as a case study in how sensitive supply chains are to geopolitical developments and highlights the importance of contingency planning and strategic adaptability in the automotive sector. Mazda's approach also underscores the importance of transparent communication with consumers. By providing advance notice of the production pause and clarifying that existing dealership inventories remain available, the company helps mitigate uncertainty for buyers and dealers alike. This communication strategy is critical in maintaining consumer confidence, particularly in an environment where tariffs and trade tensions can create unpredictable fluctuations in availability and pricing. The temporary suspension of CX50 production for Canada also emphasizes the strategic role of joint ventures like MTM in North American automotive operations. The facility represents a collaboration between Mazda and Toyota, designed to leverage shared resources, optimize production efficiency, and serve multiple markets across the continent. Despite the temporary pause in Canadian exports, the plant continues to operate at full capacity for the U.S. market, highlighting the ability of joint ventures to adapt production strategies to shifting trade conditions while maintaining operational continuity. Ultimately, the Mazda CX50 situation is a microcosm of larger global trade dynamics. It illustrates how government policies, international negotiations, and geopolitical considerations can have direct, tangible impacts on both manufacturers and consumers. For Canadian buyers, the message is clear: if a CX50 is on the wish list, now is the time to act. Dealership inventories may represent the only accessible source for the vehicle in the near term, while Mazda navigates the complex and evolving landscape of tariffs and trade relations. For Mazda, the challenge is multifaceted. The company must protect operational efficiency at MTM, respond to the economic impact of tariffs, and ensure continued access to vehicles for consumers across North America. The CX50 pause also highlights the broader implications for multinational corporations, the need for agility, the importance of monitoring international trade developments, and the necessity of balancing production, pricing, and market demand in an increasingly complex economic environment. As the situation develops, both consumers and industry stakeholders will be closely watching the outcome. Mazda's strategic response, coupled with its monitoring of trade negotiations and market trends, will play a critical role in determining how the company navigates these challenges. The pause in Canadian-bound CX50 production not only illustrates the immediate impact of tariffs but also serves as a reminder of the broader, long-term implications of trade policies for the automotive industry, supply chain management, and consumer access across international